Time to drop the really big bomb. Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. These are not the words of some anonymous internet troll. This is a direct shot fired by Elon Musk, the billionaire provocateur, aimed squarely at the heart of the American political establishment. This single, explosive accusation, repeated and amplified, is not just a personal spat. It's the detonator for a full-blown civil war raging within the ranks of the MAGA movement itself. The ghost of Jeffrey Epstein, a specter that has long haunted the corridors of power, has returned with a vengeance, and this time it threatens to consume the very team that promised to expose it. For years, the Epstein affair has been more than just a criminal case. It has been the ultimate symbol of elite depravity. The smoking gun that supporters of movements like MAGA believed would finally prove their darkest suspicions about a corrupt deep state. The promise to drain the swamp was never just about politics. It was about exposing a perceived rot at the core of society, a network of powerful individuals who operated above the law. The release of the Epstein files was meant to be the great reckoning, the moment of ultimate validation. And now, the very administration that rode to power on that promise is being accused of protecting the swamp creatures. So what in the world is happening? Why is Elon Musk, a man who once seemed to be an ally of Donald Trump, now launching such devastating attacks? What was the incredibly strange boys and gals social media post from Trump that Musk mercilessly mocked as potentially the worst post ever made? And who is the embattled Attorney General Pam Bondi, the woman now standing at the epicenter of this political earthquake, accused by her own side of a massive cover-up? Today, we are pulling back the curtain on the chaos. We will dissect the bitter infighting, the seething resentment, and the professional jealousies that have erupted over the perpetually sealed Epstein files. We will investigate the fury of once loyal allies like Dan Bongino, delve into the confounding mystery of a single missing minute of surveillance tape, and trace this entire firestorm back to one fateful comment made by the Attorney General that lit the fuse. This isn't just a news story, it's a political thriller unfolding in real time. The latest salvo was launched on what should have been a quiet Saturday. It began, as so many modern political battles do, on social media. An observant user on X captured a screenshot of a truly bizarre post from Donald Trump's own platform, Truth Social. The user's commentary was scathing. "This is in the running for worst post ever made." It was a juicy piece of bait, and Elon Musk, a predator in the digital ocean, couldn't resist. He pounced. "Seriously," Musk wrote in a reply that would quickly go viral. He said Epstein half a dozen times while telling everyone to stop talking about Epstein. Just release the files as promised. Musk's words were surgically precise. They weren't just a criticism. They were an accusation of hypocrisy and obstruction wrapped in a simple, powerful demand. He was publicly challenging the former president, questioning not only his judgment, but his fundamental commitment to the truth, a promise that had been a cornerstone of his political identity. This was no longer just about Epstein. It was about Trump's credibility at the very moment his own base was beginning to doubt him. So what was in this post that drew such widespread ridicule and a direct rebuke from the world's richest man? On its surface, Trump's message was an attempt to play the role of a concerned leader, a patriarch trying to calm his squabbling children. "What's going on with my boys, and in some cases, gals," Trump wrote, the language immediately striking a strange, condescending tone. "They're all going after Attorney General Pam Bondi, who is doing a fantastic job." Let's pause and truly absorb the strangeness of that message. The boys and gals phrasing is profoundly revealing. It's the language one might use for unruly summer campers, not for a political base of millions of passionate adults who feel deeply betrayed on a core issue. It strips them of their agency and trivializes their outrage, repositioning a legitimate political crisis as a mere personality squabble. This is a far cry from the image of the fearless warrior fighting alongside his people. Instead, it projects an image of a detached, almost monarchical figure scolding his subjects from on high. The message was a masterclass in how not to handle a public relations crisis. The all-caps declaration of Bondi's fantastic job felt defensive and desperate, less like a confident endorsement and more like an order to stand down. But the most damning part, as Musk pointed out, was the obsessive repetition of the very subject he claimed to want to bury. By repeatedly mentioning Epstein, Trump inadvertently placed him front and center, signaling to his critics that he was deeply rattled. It was a classic political blunder, an act of trying to suppress a fire by smothering it with a gasoline-soaked blanket. It confirmed for many that there was something to hide, and that the president himself was feeling the heat. To truly grasp the magnitude of this internal collapse, we must understand the role of Attorney General Pam Bondi. She has become the designated villain in this drama, a figure upon whom all the anger, frustration, and suspicion of the MAGA base has been projected. The calls for her resignation or firing are not coming from the political left. They are coming from the most ardent Trump loyalists, from influential media personalities who once championed his cause. And this entire avalanche of fury can be traced back to a single, high-profile television appearance. During a widely watched interview on Fox News earlier this year, Bondi was asked the question that has captivated a nation: what about the Epstein client list? Her answer was electrifying. She looked into the camera and confidently stated that she had the list on her desk. To be precise, she said, "It's sitting on my desk right now to review." For the millions of Americans who believe the Epstein saga represents the pinnacle of elite corruption, this was the moment they had been waiting for. It was a confirmation that felt almost biblical in its significance. The list was real. It was in the hands of the Justice Department. The powerful would finally be held accountable. Hope surged through the movement. Bondi was instantly lionized as a hero, a modern-day dragon slayer ready to bring down the corrupt giants. The statement was a political triumph, a promise of impending justice, but it was a promise that would soon curdle into a perceived betrayal. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. The list never materialized. The public's anticipation soured into suspicion. Finally, as the pressure cooker of online outrage reached a boiling point, Bondi attempted to clarify her statement. In recent days, she has tried to explain that she was speaking metaphorically, that the object sitting on her desk was not a concise client list in the way the public imagined, but rather the entire, sprawling investigation file itself. But this explanation was a catastrophic failure. It was seen as pouring salt in a gaping wound. For a base primed to see conspiracies and cover-ups by the deep state, this sounded like a classic case of bureaucratic doublespeak, a semantic game to obscure the truth. It felt like a deliberate deception, a bait-and-switch of epic proportions. The MAGA right felt betrayed. Influencers like Laura Loomer, known for her relentless style, went on the warpath, accusing Bondi of gross mismanagement at best and a willful cover-up at worst. The narrative was set. Pam Bondi was not a crusader for justice. She was a gatekeeper, protecting the very monsters she had promised to expose. This whole saga of political intrigue and broken promises is incredibly complex. If you're appreciating this detailed breakdown and want to see more investigations like this, do us a quick favor and tap that like button. It's a simple click for you, but it's a huge signal for us to keep digging deep. This firestorm is not just confined to the digital battlegrounds of social media. It has reportedly breached the walls of the White House itself. The conflict reached a dramatic peak during a tense Wednesday meeting in the hallowed Oval Office, with Donald Trump and his chief of staff, Susie Wiles, bearing witness. It was here that Deputy FBI Director Dan Bongino reportedly had a heated confrontation with Attorney General Bondi. The irony is staggering. Bongino, a man who built a media empire as a former Secret Service agent and Fox News host by railing against the corruption of federal institutions, was now a high-ranking official within one, and he was furious. He allegedly accused his superior, Bondi, of fundamentally bungling the review of the Epstein investigation. The atmosphere was reportedly so toxic that Bongino, in an act of open defiance, did not report to FBI headquarters that Friday. He was drawing a line in the sand. What could provoke such a dramatic act from a seasoned law enforcement professional? According to inside sources, Bongino felt he was being set up as a scapegoat. He was reportedly being blamed internally for one single minute of tape that appeared to be missing from surveillance footage released by the FBI. This wasn't just any tape. It was footage from the area outside Jeffrey Epstein's jail cell on the night of his death in 2019. In a case already shrouded in mystery and suspicion, a missing minute is pure dynamite. It's the kind of detail that entire documentaries and countless hours of podcasts are built on. It is the physical embodiment of a cover-up for those predisposed to believe in one. For Bongino, a man whose entire public persona and multi-million-dollar brand is built on being the ultimate insider-turned-truth-teller, being linked to a potential cover-up, no matter how small, was the ultimate professional and reputational disaster. It would make him a hypocrite in the eyes of his legions of followers. A source close to the situation painted a vivid picture of his rage. Bongino is out of control furious. This destroyed his career. He's threatening to quit and torch Pam unless she's fired. This was beyond a simple policy disagreement. This was a personal vendetta, a fight for his own survival and credibility. The administration's attempts to project calm were futile. A spokesperson issued a bland statement about the team working seamlessly and with unity, dismissing any talk of division as baseless. But Bongino's reported actions screamed a different truth. The house was on fire. This brings the story full circle, back to Elon Musk, the wild card who seems to delight in pouring fuel on these fires. His latest attacks are not a sudden impulse. They are a calculated escalation of a campaign he began months ago. We must remember that this is the second time Musk has pointed the finger directly at Trump regarding Epstein. Earlier this summer, in a now deleted tweet from June, his accusation was even more blunt and shocking. He posted, "Time to drop the really big bomb. @Real Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. That is the real reason they have not been made public. Have a nice day, DJT." At that moment in time, the comment was largely written off. It coincided with public reports about Musk's own increasingly erratic behavior and a very public disagreement he was having with the president over the GOP's budget reconciliation plan. Trump's allies easily dismissed it as the ramblings of the eccentric Doge overlord, another bizarre falsehood from a man who seemed to be losing his grip. Musk deleted the tweet after a few days, and the accusation faded into the noise of the internet. So why resurrect it now? What has changed between June and today? The answer lies in the dramatic shift of what the article calls the pendulum of MAGA popular opinion. In June, a direct attack on Trump from within the right was unthinkable. He was the untouchable leader, shielded by an impenetrable wall of loyalty. But today, the ground has shifted. With figures like Bongino and Loomer, who have immense credibility with the base, openly attacking the administration's handling of the Epstein file, they have inadvertently created a permission structure for doubt. They have cracked the foundation of absolute loyalty, proving that it is now possible to be pro-MAGA but anti-administration on this specific, crucial issue. Musk, ever the opportunist and a master of reading the digital room, saw this crack and drove a wedge into it. He is no longer a lone critic shouting into the void. He is now giving voice to a suspicion that is already spreading like wildfire through Trump's own supporters. The accusation, once easily dismissed, now lands with devastating weight because it resonates with a pre-existing narrative of betrayal and cover-up being pushed by Trump's own former champions. What we are witnessing is the unraveling of a carefully constructed political machine, brought on by a perfect storm of ego, incompetence, and paranoia. It started with a single, ill-advised comment from an attorney general. It was fueled by the fury of a deputy FBI director who felt his reputation was being destroyed. It was exacerbated by a bizarre and condescending presidential message that revealed weakness instead of strength. And it has all been weaponized by a billionaire agent of chaos who knows exactly where to apply pressure to cause maximum damage. Donald Trump's attempt to dismiss the controversy and control his boys and gals has backfired in the most spectacular fashion imaginable. He now finds himself haunted by the ghost of his former friend Jeffrey Epstein and accused by his own allies of being part of the very swamp he promised to drain. Elon Musk's relentless demand, "Just release the files as promised," is no longer just his own. It is the rallying cry of a growing, disillusioned segment of the right. The central question is no longer just about who was on Epstein's list. It is about whether the Trump team and the MAGA movement itself can survive this brutal civil war. The Epstein saga continues its destructive march, and its path leads directly to the front door of the White House. What happens next is anyone's guess, but one thing is certain: this story is far from over. To ensure you don't miss a single breaking development in this explosive situation, be sure to subscribe to our channel and activate all notifications. You will not want to miss how